Hi, I'm Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Christy, and we work with Globe International.
Working with missionaries, we hear stories of the struggles, the humor, God's goodness, and a little side of crazy.
Hey, that's who we are.
This is Crazy Missionary Stories.
Hello and welcome back to Crazy Missionary Stories. Today we have SL and LK with us who have been serving in the Himalayan regions in the 1040 window. SL has been serving for 36 years and then LK has been alongside her for 15 of those years. So will you guys start off by telling us what exactly you're doing?
What am I doing? I can't tell you that. Can you ask another question, please?
Sure.
Well, my goal is to make disciples that make disciples and to work myself out of a job. I focus on training leaders, national workers to do the work of the ministry. I do youth meetings, I travel to teach, and I counsel. And we have a small fellowship.
Wow, amazing.
It's incredible.
And so, LK, you help along with all of that?
Yes, yeah. I think one of my primary giftings or callings is to come alongside missionaries that have a cause and a vision and see it come to pass. Wow. Help support them.
So cool. So, SL, will you tell us how you first got into missions?
I came to know Jesus when I was in college, and that was from a very non-Jesus background. I was raised Catholic, but I didn't know anything about Jesus or the Bible. And God started on a search to find God, and was challenged by a friend to read the Bible just 5 minutes a day. You don't do anything else, read the Bible 5 minutes a day. And as I read, I found all my preconceived ideas about Christianity weren't what I found in the Bible. Wow. And I would ask a lot of questions, and finally, one day I thought, okay, they tell me I need to get saved and get born again. I have no idea what that means. But I am sure that if there's a God with any morals, I failed. And historically, I believe Jesus was real. So I will do what they say I'm supposed to do, and if it's real, fine. And if it's not, I haven't lost anything. So I went to this friend's room and I said, well, Bonnie, tell me what I got to do to get saved. She's like, oh, wow. You want to pray? You want me to pray? I said, well, I guess you ought to pray. I have no idea what you pray. So we prayed and I met Jesus. And that was in 1982. And she said, you will know that on this month, on this day, you got born again. And I thought, what difference does it make what month or what day? It matters that it happened. So to this day, I know it was 1982. Then I just had a hunger for the Bible, and I would read. If I had 4 hours free during the day, I would read. And as I read, I would write down all my questions. And the pastor, I started going to a church, and the pastor of that church, after I had a whole long list, would try to answer my questions. We'd meet and try to answer the questions. I was talking with him one day, and he said, you know, when I first got saved, he said, I started praying that God would open the doors that should be open, shut the doors that should be shut, and put within me a desire to do what he wanted me to do, that it would burn more than anything else, and that's how I would know what his plan was for my life. And I thought that's a good prayer, so I started praying it. And there was a woman in the church who prayed for me, and I'm probably here because she continued to pray, and for 3 years prayed that prayer. And another professor's wife at the college, she prayed that for 1.5 years also. I was doing BS with a major in biology, minors in physics and chemistry. And after 3 years of this, I just knew I'd go to the mission field. I don't think I'd ever met a missionary. But I went to the leaders in the church, the pastor and the elders, and I said, well, I'm supposed to go to the mission field. And they said, oh, we knew that. We're just waiting for you to figure it out.
You didn't know a missionary, but you felt you were supposed to go to the mission. How did you know
Outside
what the
of the
mission
United
field
States.
was? Okay, outside the United States.
I knew it was outside of the States. My mother tried to get me to go outside of the States for college, and I wouldn't go. I thought America's big enough. Wow. And so then, about the same time, I felt like I was supposed to go to graduate school. And the only plan for graduate school was to go into marine biology down there in Florida. And so I got the applications, and I was filling out the applications, and I thought, I'm going to convince him I want to go. There's competition for this. I don't want to go. But I'm supposed to go to school and do the master's degree. So the day that I was filling those out, I was in town at a friend's office, and the pastor came to answer my questions. And I was at a desk, and he walked in the door, had no idea what I was doing, walked through that room into the next room and sat down, and I left the papers and went in and sat down. So he walked in the room, and he looked at me, and he said, SL, he said, before you ask your questions, I have a question for you. And I said, okay. He said, have you ever considered going to Bible school? And ding, the light came on, because no, I had never considered that. Wow. So I ended up at a school that he had gone to, and I took all the missions classes that I could, because my thought process was that I don't have to make the mistakes other people make. Yeah. I can make my own, but I can learn from theirs. Mm-hmm. And also, I was always interested in the 1040 window. That's where the least amount of people went. And where I was in school, it seemed like everybody from there went to Spanish-speaking countries. I don't know, South America and other Spanish-speaking countries, and I was not interested in that. I just felt like 1040 window. And so then I started praying and said, Lord, if you would tell me where I'm going, I could stop asking where and pray specifics. It's logical. And so I continued to pray and pray and pray and didn't hear. And finally, the school had chapel every morning. And finally, this one morning, there was a missionary from Guatemala that was going to speak. And I thought, okay, well, Lord, I said, Lord, maybe I haven't heard you because I've said no. If you want me to go to a Spanish-speaking country, I'll go. I went to the chapel with an open heart. And I can tell you that what the lady was speaking about, she was in the kitchen with her roommate, and the Lord told me this country. And it was in the 1040 window. And so I thought, awesome. And I had a friend in school that was from that same country, and I went to her and I said, Lord told me to go there. And she cried and I cried and we hugged necks. So I went home and to the church and said, well, I'm supposed to go to this country. And they said, okay, bye.
Wow.
I had never been west of Kentucky, never been on anything bigger than a twin-seater Cessna, did not know a word of that country's language, and that country did not speak English.
Wow. So you raised your money? You raised support?
I was putting myself through school, doing my master's degree, working, and I didn't have a spare penny. They don't make them anymore, but I didn't have a spare one at that time. But a friend called me, the same one who prayed for me all the time, and said, SL, where the Lord calls, the Lord provides. Mm-hmm. And in order to get my visa, I had to have a ticket. And to get a ticket, I needed money. And just before I had to apply for the visa, the money was given for the ticket, and I got the visa. And I got all that I needed to go for 3 months. So I got on a plane, and I had a few verses for myself, and the devil said, you are a fool, you are going to die. And I was hanging on to those verses. And I got there and had great experiences. Like, I was supposed to go fly into this city and then go by train to another city to meet these people who were expecting me. And at the last minute, that plan got changed, and I was told I was supposed to fly into the country and then fly to that city. So I said, okay, the catch is that this was 1988, okay? The catch is that I got into the international airport. I had to get to the national airport.
Oh, no.
Once I got to this was the middle of the night. Once I got to the national airport, I found out it does not open until 7 a.m., and you cannot go inside without your ticket.
No. And I'm assuming this was in a different place. It wasn't all in one piece of land.
Well, you had to get from point A to point B, and you couldn't walk.
Yeah, wow.
So I was in that country in the middle of the night, didn't know a word of the language.
Oh my goodness.
And had to figure out what I was going to do until I could go to the airport and go to the window and get my ticket so I could go inside. Well, I found a little hotel that I didn't even really want to sit on the bed in.
Wow.
I don't think I slept at all. Yeah. It was a little bit creepy. So in the morning, I got on the flight and I went to that city. And those people had been sitting out in the sun waiting for me because the flight was delayed by some hours. And they took me home. And then they took me on a tour. And later on, a missionary that was working in that country from England said, you know, if God had sent me here first, I would have gone home.
Wow.
And I knew it was going to be a city. I'm not a city person. So before I left America, I was saying, okay, Lord, you say you'll give grace where it's needed. I'm reminding you it's needed. So I went to this city, and they picked me up. They took me on this tour. I attended some services, got to see miracles. One woman came from a village. She was blind, an older woman. We prayed for her, and she went home seeing.
Wow.
She never came back to church, but she went home seeing. And then I started to feel like I was supposed to go to the mountains. Now, being the good American I was that was never going to leave America, and not studying the country before I left. We didn't have internet in that day. I could have gone to the library. I didn't. So I thought, I'm supposed to go to the mountains. I don't think they have mountains. So if I ask anybody, they're going to think, what a stupid American. So finally, I got my courage up, and I asked this missionary from England, who had been in that country for, I don't know, 15 or 20 years, do they have mountains? And he said, yeah, they do have mountains. I said, I think I'm supposed to go to the mountains. He said, yeah, there's mountains. And I couldn't decide, okay, I actually like mountains. So is it me or is it God? He said, well, the mountains are like the fields when they harvest. When they go around and they reap the fields, they miss the corners. And the mountains are like the corners. Nobody wants to go there. It's difficult. You have to walk. You know, it's maybe cold. People just don't want to go there. They're neglected. So I thought, well, that's good. But then I still had to go back to the Lord and say, well, Lord, is this me or you? And on one side, there's a whole bunch of actually missionaries that live in that region. And on the backside, nobody goes. So we went down the backside of that mountain and found these people that were basically starving. They were skimming the grass with these little wicker basket things because they didn't have enough food. They didn't have money. They didn't have food. And actually, the seeds they were eating it's not good for you in a large quantity. And they were just totally neglected. And we were there. We talked with different people. And there was one man, and he asked us to go pray for his wife. We went to pray for his wife. She was in bed. She was skin and bones. We have no idea what her sickness was, but she looked like she was ready to die. And we prayed for her, and we left. And I don't know, maybe a week or 10 days later, we went back. And as we came down to the village, you have to cross a little stream, and there was somebody washing clothes in the stream, and we went to his house. And he said, did you see my wife? Did you see my wife? We said, no. He said, she's washing clothes.
Oh my
God had just totally healed her. But I didn't feel like that's where I was supposed to be. So I went from there back to this city where I had been, and I met some guys from the USA that were studying in a university there, learning the language of the country, because that's a good way to have a visa, and because most of the time school doesn't operate, you can spend many years getting your degree.
Oh, really?
So they said, oh, you want to go to the mountains? Well, we know some ladies in the mountains. There's these two British ladies. They're in this place, and they told me the name of the place. And they said, but you have to be careful. You have to go by bus, and they'll put your luggage up one side and take it down the other side. And when you get there, you don't have anything. And I felt fear. Okay, it's the first time I felt fear. Now, if you had time, I could tell you amazing stories. That 3 months, I have so many amazing stories. But at that point, I felt fear. And then they showed me on the map, and from where I was to where that was, looked like a really long way. And I felt fear, because I was going to have to go by train, and then I was going to have to go by bus, and it was a long way, and I didn't know the language. But the Holy Spirit said, there.
Wow.
So I got on a train, and I went to another city, and then somebody helped me get on the bus that was going directly to where I needed to be. I got on that bus at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and somewhere in the middle of the night, the bus stopped. It was dark. There were some cement poles with a cement slab, people sleeping here and there, 1 or 2 lights, and the bus wasn't going anywhere. So, okay. So I started asking for the name of the place I was supposed to go to. It wasn't a city, it was a small place. And I was asking for this place, and this man from another region of the world came, who also did not speak English. He spoke his language, but he let me know I should wait. So I waited, I don't know how long, maybe a few hours, and another bus came. So I asked, and they said, yes, yes. So I get in that bus and get my luggage on that bus. And that man came back into the bus, and he found me, and he was happy I was there.
Wow.
So we got started again. And then we got to another town that's a few hours from the one I was supposed to be in, got on another bus, and you have a driver and you have a man who takes money and makes sure people are on the bus, as they do in many countries. So those 2 people got in a fight, and the bus wasn't going anywhere. Oh, no. So I found a 3rd bus.
So just to review, you're alone and you don't speak the language, and it's the middle of the night.
Well, yeah. No, now we're in the daytime, because we were in the middle of the night when I got on the 2nd bus. By now we're in the next day.
I mean,
I know.
it's crazy. It's absolutely, yeah.
Scary.
Amazing. Were you scared at that point? I know before you went, you were.
Well, I was like, I really hope my luggage makes it. I had been sent with things for people, and of course I had some clothes, but I've been sent with things for some people, and clothes, and yeah. So I got on the 3rd bus, and we actually reached my destination. So then I had to go in search of these women.
You'd
I
never
had
met them
vague
before.
directions.
You'd never met them.
I sent them a letter, but I never heard a response. So I had to go in search of these people. So I'm going through this little town searching, and it has little alleyways and stuff. And finally, I come to where I'm supposed to be, and I meet this lady, and she says, "Oh, yes, come in. I got your letter. I'm sorry, I didn't have time to write. Come, come, come." So I stayed for the next month in a little house, if you want to call it that, with her husband, her 2 children, their 2 dogs, and 1 cat. And the whole house was probably as wide as that, and from here to that wall.
Wow.
My goodness.
And so I was there, and I was told by someone who had been working in that region for some years, there was no point in going there. These people are not going to believe you are wasting your time. But before the month was over, I knew that's where I was supposed to go back to.
Wow.
And and I got sick while I was there. So I came homesick, but I knew that's where I was supposed to go.
Like you just had a peace and just this desire.
I just knew that I knew that's where I was supposed to be.
Wow.
And I was a foreigner. There were at that point 3 other foreigners. One was married to a local. She had been a religious follower of a different religion. Married a man from that who was of the same persuasion, and then she came to know Jesus. And then there was, and then before I met her. And then there was another woman that had been there for several years. And then there was another woman that was a nurse working at a hospital, a little mission hospital in the area, and that's it.
Wow.
For foreigners following Jesus. Now, as in many places in the mountains, in the Himalayan region, there are lots of drugs, and so there were a lot of foreigners who came for the drugs, but not to share the gospel. And one of the biggest things I had to overcome, I came back, finished my degree, and went back in 1990, and I moved into a village. And one of the number one things besides the language that I had to overcome was that if you're white, you're there for the drugs. So.
Wow. Now, how did you learn the language? Did you go to school?
I went for 3 months to a language school. I learned to read it, write it, and had a 1,000-word vocabulary.
In 3 months?
And I learned the language, the government language, but they have their own village languages, their own people group languages. And a lot of them did not speak that language or didn't speak it well. I was white, And because I was a foreigner and they would assume I was there for the drugs, I got a place in the village. But the way I overcame everything was I worked with my landlady 1 or 2 days a week, whatever she did. If she went to cut grass, we cut grass. If she went to get fruit, we went to get fruit. If she went to get wood, we went to get wood. And doing that, I got accepted. And then anything they did, they called me. Now, I didn't understand what they were saying. We had a lot of charades. It was a lot of fun. We had a big thing one night. There was no light, which was quite often the case. They only got TVs that year in that place. And my landlady came and she wanted something, and she kept saying this word, and I didn't know what this word is, and she's making these actions, and I don't know what it is. She wanted a candle. Oh. So we laughed about that for years afterwards, because I didn't know the word for candle.
Yeah. Wow. So, LK, how did you get involved in missions? So there's a lot here to unpack, because you got SL went over and then somehow the two of you met, but you also have your own relationship with the Lord. And how did you get into missions?
So I didn't know missionaries existed. I didn't know there were any live missionaries. I had no clue about 1040 windows.
So when you say no live missionaries, when did the era of missions ended in your mind?
Carey,
With William Carey.
I think. Whenever he died, missions died, because that's what my grandmother told me. She went to a school, my grandmother, so this is like early 1900s, went to a school that had missionaries. Wow. And they were all sent back at some point and nobody came back. And I was born and raised in a very traditional, legalistic Christian family. And sent to church, Sunday school for kids, and you have to be in church whether you understand the message or not, and all of that stuff. But sometime when I think the first answered prayer was when I was 9 years old. But around sometime when I was 12, I started asking the Lord what His plan is for my life. And I think, if I remember correctly, I was 15 or 16 when I accepted the Lord officially. And then I went off to college. I went and did a training that I could work at a hospital. But I still didn't know that missionaries existed, because I grew up in a Christian family, surrounded, bombarded with Jesus, Bible verses everywhere, that kind of a thing. So I studied in a Christian college, so that's even more like a Christian environment, right? And because the college I studied at is the best college for the degree I did in the country. So I wanted to give back to the cause of the college. So I was also wanting to go to the West, because that's what most of my family was in the West already, and most people in that country, they go to the West, So I applied for licenses to go practice my profession in England, and while that was in process, I thought I'll need about 2 years, at least 1.5 years. I want to go and work in a remote Christian hospital that would want me to be there, because the church or the college or the hospital that sent me to do this degree did not want me. So I was open. I wanted to go. I was open to anywhere in the country. I was young, so you want to explore and experience, new things. I know that about this hospital where I ended, but I didn't know I knew they had snow, but I didn't know what the terrain was. Anyway, I was open. I was asking the Lord to show me, guide me. At the same time, asking Him for what His plan is for my life. And then my mom, the place where the Lord was leading me, took about 3 days to get to at that time. It was anywhere between 28 hours to 36 hours in the train.
Oh my goodness.
plus half a day in the city to change into a bus. So the bus was anywhere between 16 to 18 hours
Oh my
at
goodness.
the time. So, but I was open. I wanted to go, and I spoke to my parents. Mom didn't want to send me, but my dad was like, "Oh, let her experience." And I went there for a year. Because I thought by the time my licenses come through for England, everything, um, it'll be a year, and nobody wants a fresh graduate anyway. And I will have experience for at least a year, maybe two. Then I'll be a good candidate for the job market. So my dad convinced my mom and brought me. And uh, before in the city where we had to change from the train to the bus, we stayed in an area where there are a lot of hippie travelers, like backpackers, and they were all white people. And my aunt is a white, but Southern Christian white, and so she's very proper. So my grandmother said we got the gospel because of the white people, because of Americans. And
Americans or England?
Americans is what she said, because she loved Americans, I think. But I knew William Carey is English. But anyway, long story short, but the backpackers I saw wore a lot of robes from other religions, dressed like followers of other religions. And I was there only maybe like a short period of time, like a day or less, but it just broke my heart. I thought, these are the people that need the gospel, not me. Because I am a believer since childhood, where these people don't have it, and they're coming here to hear the gospel. So I need to share the gospel to them.
Yeah.
But I couldn't make a contact with any of them. I would try and smile and all of that, but they just ignored me. So I was determined in my heart that I was going to share the gospel to
the Americans.
the white people, who, and I had no clue about the area where I was going. I only knew about the hospital, and it snows. So my dad found a bus. We went up the mountains. We went up, and when I woke up, my dad was like, wake up, look outside," because he was so excited that it's mountains. And it was beautiful. It was like clouds sitting on the mountains, and this river going along the roadside. And I was like, "Oh, I get to walk here?" So I was super excited. And then my dad fell asleep, and I was just praying. We haven't reached, it was like 3 hours before our destination. And I was just praying. And the more the bus went into the mountains, the more the peace of God settled on my heart. And it was so heavy, the praise, I had to literally bow down in the bus. So I knew I was going there because of God's plan, because I was asking the Lord to show me what His plan is. But I still, well, in my head, I was going to be there for a year. But I knew at least for that year, I'm in the center of God's will. In the 90s, 80s, we are always like being in the center of God's will, right? So I just knew that because of the heavy peace. It was so heavy that it's tangible. So the place came, and, the taxi drivers and the people that want to give you rides are like hagglers, like. So my dad is like, "You got to get up," and I was like, "I don't want to get out of this moment," because I was experiencing such deep peace. Anyway, we go to the hospital where I was supposed to work at, and I was working. Everything is new. Met different people. That's new, and it's exciting. Learning. I knew some language, local language, well, the language of the area, not the language of the valley, but the language of the general area. So I got to learn more, pick up my language and all of that, and I was excited to meet new people and all of that. So my boss, she was a lady. She took me to the hospital, gave me the orientation for the job, and introduced me to different departments. And I was still like, it was the first few days, right? I'm still trying to get my foot on the ground. And my boss has been bringing different patients to get me started for me to treat. And on the third day, she comes in and brings a lady and starts introducing me to the lady and said what the pain is. And she said, I've been waiting for you to come so that you could help this lady. And I said, okay. And then as soon as I saw the lady, I thought, I mean, there are a lot of white people in that area. So in those first few days, when I went to get like stuff for me to live there, I saw a lot of white people. So I was like, I have a great opportunity here. I'm going to live here for a year, and I'm going to, tell them the gospel. Um, and I was looking for opportunities, right, to connect. So when my boss brought this lady, she's a white lady. So I was like, yes. So I was evaluating and I was, being very careful because I don't know what they think and the culture and all of that. I didn't want to run off the patient, basically. So I was asking questions about the condition and all of that. And um, I asked in the middle of the whole patient evaluation, I said, so do you believe in God? And she said, yes. I said, okay. And I saw what they all believed back in the city, right? So I'm not going to come to any conclusions. Then I gave her like the appointment to come back, and then I would ask questions. Where do you live? Just to make it friendly and non-intimidating. And I never got like a straight answer. Like, where do you live? Or do you do? Um, except for the history that is related to that was related to the condition of her problem, she would not give me anything. And I thought definitely a lost case because they were lost. They were lost in their robes. So I have to really preach the gospel. But anyway, I asked, okay, so do you believe in God? She said yes. And then I went off to the clinical picture and treating and all of that. And I said, so does your God have a name? And she said yes. And then again, I went off to the clinical treatment and all of that. And I said, I know there are a lot of names here in this country. Um, so does your God have a name? Do you? And she said, Jesus. And I thought, oh, that's nice.
You don't need to evangelize anyone.
Then I said, I also believe in Jesus. And then we struck off the conversation and then we, talked more. And then because I was new to the campus and the hospital and also new to the area, there are a few workers from the area I came from. And they invited me to a Bible study because there are a lot of small house group studies. And I wanted to know, because where I grew up, there are a lot of denominations, a lot of different theologies. So I wanted to know, I know I was young, but I didn't want to be foolish and get sucked into some wrong theology. So I was asking, I had no clue that there are no, like it's not evangelized, like that area is not. So I thought there are a lot of denominations. So I wanted to find out, so what kind of belief system do you follow? And they said, well, we believe that God sent his son, his name is Jesus, he died and rose again. And they wouldn't give me more information than that. Like I was trying to find out if you're Jehovah's Witness, you're Mormon, you're seven, like they wouldn't. So anyhow, so I said, who leads it? And they said, well, an American missionary leads it. I said, okay. I didn't know missionaries existed, so I thought I was going to find out. In my mind, if there are any missionaries, they are small, short, sweet, uh, like school teacher. Hi, honey. That's the picture I had.
Very evident. She basically had missionary plastered on her forehead.
Yeah, because my aunt was a school teacher. They had, she lived like missionary kind in my head. So I thought that's how they are, if there are any missionaries, right?
If there are, you were
If
still
there are-
doubting.
No, I still didn't know. I mean, they were dead with William Carey. So then the Tuesday came, and then I went for the Bible study. So I was curious to meet the missionary, right, for the first time ever. And then different people came, and then the lady I met at the clinic came with a guitar and a motorcycle helmet.
And a motorcycle helmet.
Yeah. No, there's no picture of missionary walking because there's nobody that is like slow, soft, composed like a school teacher with a makeup on. So they came and they had different, like Bible study pattern, like worship and word. It was very nice. I felt the power of God. And I was like, okay, this is something I would like to be part of, the worship. And then I see the same lady that came from the clinic, and I was like, "Oh, you come here too?" And she said, "Yeah, I do. How are you doing?" I was like, "Yeah, doing great." And then the Bible study finishes, and I'm still waiting for the missionary.
Oh my goodness.
And
No missionary
no
sighting.
missionary. She's supposed to be the leader. Maybe she didn't come. Maybe she's sick. Maybe she's caught up. Maybe she's a bad leader. She doesn't show up. So after the Bible study was over, I could hardly pay attention to the word because I'm still waiting.
You were like waiting. Where is she?
Where is she? This school teacher type of. Anyway, after the Bible study was over, everybody left, and I asked the lady who invited me. So did the? You said the American missionary leads the Bible study. She said, yeah. She's the leader, but didn't show up today. She's like, no, she came. I was like, well, I missed somebody.
See that.
See that? See that? I didn't. Who was that?
So funny.
Well, the lady who walked with a guitar and a motorcycle helmet.
So the first person that she evangelized was the American missionary.
So you can depend on my discernment. If the Holy Spirit says, go, go evangelize the missionaries. I'm very good at it. So, yeah, that was SL.
And that is how the two of you met. And from there, started ministry together.
At that time, George Bush Jr. was the president, and he was reading Matmos for his highest, and it was in the news. And I was reading up Matmos for his highest. And every day I would call the SL for treatments for 5 days or 10 days, something like that. And we would discuss I would ask, what did God tell you today? Because God was working in my heart, which I didn't know at the time. And he would speak something new every day, and we would discuss. So that's how our acquaintance grew. And I still was going to get my licenses completed in England and all of that. And there was a patient who came sometime in June. He was a 26-year-old man who had a head injury. He presented like stroke on left side. And so I was treating. And I could do occupational therapy and physical therapy and different things. But I didn't know speech therapy. I had no idea. I had some friends that I could ask about different services I could provide, like treat. And 3 months down the road, and they would carry him in his hands, because there were no wheelchairs in the hospital. There were no ramps in the hospital. He couldn't stand. He could barely sit. So 3 months into it, he could sit up and he could walk with the help of a crutch. But he could not speak. And he could barely use he's beginning to use his hand, but barely. And I was able to help him with that. And 3 months we were hitting a plateau for his progress, like getting there, not there yet. And I was like, Lord, I want to help this young man. He had a 1-year-old son, 1.5, I think, new wife, like 2 years into marriage. So my heart just went for him. You know, he's a young man, whole future ahead of him, young wife, and this young child. Who needs him, you know. So I said, Lord, I'm able to help him with PT and OT and different things, but I don't know how to help him with speech. I don't know what to tell him. I don't know how to train him. You got to help me. And so I told him, RC, I think his name is here. I said, I don't know what to do for your speech. I know you want to communicate. He could understand, but he could not speak. And I said, I believe in Jesus and I'll pray for you. But that's all I can do. I don't know what else to do for you. And he nodded his head with a smile, small smile. And I said, I have some friends that I meet with today. This was on Monday, and then Tuesday. I said, I have some friends I meet with today. I'll tell them about you to pray for you. He nodded his head, you know. And then his brother came, carried him back to the car and went home. That's Tuesday Bible study. And I told, you know, in the Bible study, praise points. And I said, there's a patient of mine that I'm treating. He needs to be able to speak. It'll be really good for him and his family if he could speak. So could you all pray for him? So everybody prayed. And then we went our own way. And then the next day, went to work. And his brother carried him back for therapy. And he said, good afternoon, ma'am.
Oh my goodness.
Just like that.
Yeah, just like that.
Wow.
I said, CR, good afternoon. You are speaking. He said, yes, with this grin from here to here.
Oh my goodness.
And then his brother sat him on the bed and, you're speaking. You know, he said yes. And then I spoke to him in the language. He was a learned man. He went to college. I spoke to him in the language of the area. He was able to speak that, reply in that language. He could speak in English. There were very few people who could speak in English.
Wow.
He could speak and reply in English and in his local language.
Wow.
So the whole language came back.
Wow. Praise God.
Yeah.
There's some slur to it, but he could communicate. That's what my prayer was. And then I asked him, so how did this happen? How did you start speaking? He said, just like that. When did you start speaking? He said, around 5:36 yesterday.
And that's when you all prayed.
Prayed. Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, Lord, you mean like we don't even need to lay hands on people and they get healed?
Wow. Yeah.
You know, that's something that caught my attention. I think God used it, God used it to bless him, but also bless me. And I started thinking, I was like, what is it? I know God was real. I know God can heal, but you need to lay hands on people. You know, I did not know you could be praying in one area and somebody gets healed 2 kilometers down the road without the person being in the picture, in the prayer. And so I was like, I want to be part of this. I want to know them more, and I want to have what they have. You know, so that was what. But I also wanted to go to England. So, but the Lord started working in me. I didn't realize. And then about 9-10 months, several things happened in between that the Lord used to challenge my own reasoning about why West and why here. And I was learning more about UPGs, FPGs.
Yeah, so can you explain what a UPG and an FPG are for those
So-
people that don't know?
Yeah, FPGs frontier people groups, UPGs unreached people groups. And I had no idea at the time, but they this group of people were educating me, like on what is 1040 Windows, what is UPG, because we didn't have internet. Of course, there's no library there. And they would use code languages, like codes for, and I was drawn to it, like, and they had some sense of authority that I did not have, And 9 months after this incident, there was a young girl, she was 15 years old, again came for treatment. And again, CR did not know the gospel. He only heard the name of Jesus in his school, but he did not know the gospel. So I was able to share with him and tell him why Jesus. So that was a beautiful opportunity too, that you are actually healed by Jesus.
Yeah.
And he has very poor memory, but to this date, he remembers that it was Jesus who healed him. So 9 months 9 months after that, I met a young girl. She's about 15, who came for treatment. She had tuberculosis of hip, and I, because of my profession, I get to talk. I love talking, to new people. So I was asking her questions, and then I learned that she lost her mom. And she's the eldest of 5 kids. And she was cooking, managing the household along with her dad. And it just broke my heart. I thought, here am I, 23, 24, who's thinking of all the career options I could have. And I'm meeting almost 10 years younger, a girl who's almost 10 years younger than me, who all her career is to take care of her siblings. She doesn't have a career. Like, she doesn't even have those options. Yeah. So it just broke my heart to hear that she's growing up without a mom, but playing the role of a mom. And I started asking her questions, and I said, can I pray for you? And she said, yeah. And I know there are a million names there in that area. So I wanted to make sure that she knows that I'm going to pray for her in Jesus' name. And I asked her, LN, her name is, I said, can I pray for you in the name of Jesus? She nodded her head and she said, we don't have anybody with that name in our village. I said, you don't have anybody? He's like, no, we don't have anybody in that neighborhood with that village, with that name in our village. I said, it's not the name of a person. It's the name of a God. She, I don't know what she was thinking, like to go to a priest to be prayed for. I said, it's not the name of a person, it's the name of a God, actually the living God. She just looked at me. No, we never heard that before. Wow. And it actually blew me. I was like, how could you grow up? Like, here I was bombarded with Jesus before I could even speak. And this girl is 15 years old and never heard the name of Jesus. And she only lived like 2.5 hours from where the hospital was located.
Where all these missionaries had been.
And I was thinking, I didn't share with anybody, I was thinking. And then 3 days later or 4 days later, her dad joined the treatment session, and I wanted to know if he heard the gospel. And I started talking to him, and I asked him, I was talking to Neetu, I prayed with her, is it okay if I pray with her? He said, yeah. Yes, I said, well, can I pray in Jesus' name? He said, we don't have anybody like that in our village. I said, it's not a person, it's the name of a God. He said, okay, but we did not hear that name before. It just blew my mind.
Because there's lots of gods in that area, correct?
Million, it's million gods. And they were like, he's 40-some-year-old man and never ever even heard the name of Jesus. Wow. And I thought, after I shared the gospel, gave them the New Testament, what I think is, she did pray a prayer of confession, but I mean, there were no phones at the time. There was no internet at the time. I don't have any contact with her. So I do pray for her, but I don't know if
Yeah, who's going to disciple her? Yeah.
there was nobody to disciple in that area. There was nobody who could go because they live 1.5 hours walking distance from the last end point of the road at that time. Wow. So there was no way for me to go.
Yeah.
But the Lord used that, and I thought, here am I going to the West to get comfortable and earn a comfortable living, like earn money, basically, and have a comfortable life. But there is this whole group of people that never heard the gospel. Forget the gospel. They never even heard the name of Jesus. You know, so the Lord challenged me, and I said, it's your choice. If anyone wants to follow me, you'll have to deny yourself. Whoever loses your life, actually, for my name, will gain it. So you could go to the West and have a comfortable life. It's your choice. Or you could be part of their lives and be a part of eternity for somebody. I thought God had put this message in my heart that could actually change eternity for somebody. And I'm going to leave that and go have comfortable life just for me and my family. I mean, it's too much to lose. You know, to be part of someone's eternity is something very precious and valuable. To change the eternity for somebody. So that is how I started committing my life, and I wanted to know more and serve Christ in the 1040 groups.
That is awesome. I feel like we should just like ask people who wants to go into missions right now and how can you do it, you know? I'd like to get onto the field after hearing that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm ready, let's go. I'll go to the 1040 window. Yeah, that is incredible. And I think that you put that so well, LK, into like the choice that we have, you know? It's and how the Bible clearly says it, but what it looks like in reality. Because here I went to school and now I'm exercising my profession and I'm doing it to serve a bit to gain experience. So now I can go get money in a different place and live better and live comfortably. But yet all of a sudden now you're confronted with the reality of, oh my goodness, there are people in a country with so many gods that have not heard the name of the true God. And and so this is your chance. And they received Jesus, but how are they going to learn more and grow if no one is there to share with them? And so you chose in that moment to say, I'll stay. That's where it all happened for you. That's incredible, incredible. Well, I want to hear so much more. I know this is just like skimming the surface of the stories that you all have, but we need to close down this episode. I feel like you had a little bit of craziness mixed in there, even though we didn't get a true crazy story. But hold on, guys, because we'll get it in the next episode. So, yeah. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for listening to Crazy Missionary Stories. If you are listening on Spotify, don't forget to follow us and give us a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. And of course, share it with your friends. Thank you guys for listening. See you next time.